Making headlines for this week of October 14th, rhetoric of war. While the West beats drums of war, people see the lies, and Eastern countries move to stop cabal. Financial red alert. Amid weapons of mass distraction, is the fractional reserve paradigm taking its last breaths? China admits ET connection. 3-year-old testimony becomes relevant today amidst political change. And friend or foe, the blessings and curses of a rapidly expanding virtual reality.
With news around, upon, within, and beyond our planet, the program making disclosure official. This is Cosmic Vision News. Here is Jeffrey West.
Greetings and blessings to all. With the trumpets of war, rhetoric, and fear-mongering growing in various circles around the world, it would seem we are approaching the climax of what can only be the final removal of the global cabal from its position of hegemony and dominance over humanity and the planet. The vast majority of energetically sensitive people can feel it. For those who are not yet aware of this sensory perception, one has to do more work in connecting the dots of the current geoeconomic and geopolitical paradigm to see a pattern unfolding that the mainstream media is trying to keep hidden. To new listeners who may question that we are witnessing the end of cabal control over humanity and the planet, we only have to start by observing at first the amount of rhetoric combined with the lack of action to back up the rhetoric, combined with the progress happening on numerous different fronts, combined also with the expanding awakening of humans across the planet to the crimes of the cabal, and the fact that the voice of the people can no longer be stopped nor suppressed. During this process, however, it may look to some that the world is in a downward spiral, and for those choosing to see fear, this is the reality they are likely to create around them. I do not have to remind regular listeners of the importance in not getting caught up in the energetic, emotional drama that we are witnessing around the world at this time, and to observe neutrally while anchoring the most positive, loving energy that one is able to offer in every moment of now. Of course, some moments will be easier than others, and all one can do is one's very best. It is so very vital at this time that humanity not give any energies of fear to events that are unfolding, for the events only reflect the growing desperation of a small group of humans and negative non-Earth entities that need humanity to fall back into fear, separation, and war in order for them to get the energies they need to maintain their control over humanity and the planet. In this final battle, we all must do our absolute best to not allow this to happen. In this battle, the majority of humans only have to observe and anchor peaceful, loving energies and allow those who are already taking care of the positive physical changes to continue doing their work on behalf of humanity and the planet. Still, some may ask, how can one know that the change is positive if one is not knowing it within one's heart? If one looks at the control the global cabal have had over the planet for the lifetime of most of us, being the last 100 years at least, and if one truly understands how this control has filtered into every aspect of society as we currently know it, one may also begin to see how changes are beginning to filter out to offer hints that this control is no longer as strong as it may once have been. If the global cabal and its media partners were still as strong as they believe themselves to be, the Internet would not have succeeded in providing the network it has for people around the world to communicate, to learn, and to awaken to the lies, frauds, and crimes of cabal-linked groups in countries around the world. Although this larger group and its many sub-parts still attempt to control humanity through dangerous foods, medications, drugs, entertainment, sports, sex, violence, chemtrails, fluoride in water, and multiple other distractions, millions of people worldwide are choosing a higher service and a more life-honoring way of living, while communicating a more life-honoring message and truth for humanity. It has been getting harder and harder for the cabal group to stop us, regardless of their attempts. Had they still had their great power, I suspect that many of us, including me, would not be able to share the information we are feeling called to share at this time. Even on a national level, the people of Greece, of Iceland, have demonstrated to the world that they are awake and that they are ready to take back control from those who have been enslaving them. In a few moments, you'll hear about what the people of Spain are doing to send a message to the world. The signs are there for those who choose to justify a reality of fear and war. And the signs are there for those who choose to justify and create a reality of greater peace, harmony, positive empowerment, and co-creation of a new human and planetary consciousness as a birthing galactic star nation. What the world is currently witnessing in Syria could, arguably, become the confrontation that determines once and for all that those who have been in control of the planet until now are no longer in control. Observe, the global cabal in the past has often bragged about conflicts in an attempt to get people to rally behind a flag and support the war efforts. What we are finding now is that news of conflicts are being kept increasingly more quiet, likely because people know far too much truth and are helping to expose anything that the cabal attempts that is not what they are claiming it to be. The conflict in Syria, for example, is not what the U.S., Israel, and its allies are claiming it to be. It is not a civil war. It is a proxy war between U.S. and ally mercenary groups attempting to destabilize and remove a lawfully, democratically elected, and popular leader from a country that is not playing by Western dictated rules. As at least one article reports, however, Syria is becoming a powder keg. James Holbrooks, writing for the Mint Press News last August 19th, noted the following: with China's presence in Syria, and on the side of Russian and Syrian forces no less, the last remaining global superpower has injected itself in the most hotly contested military conflict on the planet. The article continues, according to state-run Chinese news outlet Xinhua, the Chinese military, citing remarks made by a high-ranking military official during a rare trip to Damascus, is seeking closer ties with war-torn Syria, offering to supply humanitarian aid and even train Syrian military personnel. China depends on Middle East for oil imports, but in the past has tended to leave diplomacy to member nations of the UN Security Council, chiefly the US, Britain, France, and Russia. However, China has inserted itself more deeply as of late. The news comes as Syrian government forces, backed by Russian air power, have established a siege around Aleppo, the last remaining enemy stronghold. Syrian and Russian forces have established humanitarian corridors for which civilians and even rebel fighters can escape, and maintains daily ceasefires for them to do this. Given these developments, it appears the last stand of the rebels may be imminent. While the Western media would try to suggest that the West maintains a strong position in Syria, an article appearing on Sputnik News suggests something else. According to this article, more than 10,000 of militants in Syria have surrendered their weapons and went back to peaceful life since the beginning of the conflict, with some of them joining the ranks of the Syrian army. Syrian Reconciliation Minister Ali Haidar told Sputnik on October 13th. RT reported on October 12th that Washington and its allies are using the Syrian crisis to play politics instead of providing real solutions, Vladimir Putin told French TV. He said that Moscow has put forward an offer to send troops to safeguard aid convoys in Aleppo, while the West accuses Moscow of committing war crimes. This is political rhetoric that does not have great significance and does not take into account the real situation in Syria, Putin told French TV channel TF1 during an interview in the central Russian city of Kovrov, when asked about the accusations that have been leveled by François Hollande, UK Foreign Minister Boris Johnson, and the Obama administration. Putin then accused the West of destabilizing the region, citing the Arab Spring in 2011 as a key flashpoint for tensions that still dominate the Muslim world. I believe deeply that some of the responsibility for what is happening in the region in general and in Syria in particular lies especially with our Western partners, above all the USA and its allies, including the main European countries, said Putin. Remember how everyone rushed to support the Arab Spring? Where is that optimism now? How did it all end? Remember what Libya or Iraq looked like before these countries and their organizations were destroyed as states by our Western partners' forces? During a recent press conference with Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova, a Western journalist asked her why Russia is supporting Syrian leader Assad when he is, allegedly, killing civilians. Inessa S., who posted the Zakharova's YouTube video, cites her response and provides a translation, highlighting the increasing frustration she and Russia are experiencing with the ignorance of Western journalists. Zakharova effectively put the journalist in his or her place by inviting the U.S. and its allies to sit down and identify who the real terrorists are. But Russia will not leave because they were invited there to help. She pointed out all the UN documents and resolutions identifying terrorist groups to be dealt with, and al-Nusra is one of them. She told the journalist that there are interests actively seeking to prevent the U.S. and Russia from working together. She pointed out that 4 years ago, Russia was nowhere near Syria, and yet civilians were being killed the same way they are being killed today. Yet, the West attempts to lay blame on Russia and the Syrian government now. She pointed out how Western journalists were not present in Aleppo 4 years ago when U.S. and European journalists were nowhere to be found, and it was the Russian journalists that provided the proof to the UN what was going on in Syria, and the Russian Air Force was nowhere in the area at that time. She pointed out that the argument that Russia is killing civilians is a bunch of rubbish, and the Western media is full of hypocrisy in its reporting. She was quoted as saying that, "I'm very sorry for my expression, but such simplification means that Western stupidity is more dangerous than the threat itself. And when simplification to this scale happens in the Western mainstream media, I think this is more scary than terrorism itself." The link to Zakharova's press conference is in the show's summary for this story. Amid Western accusations that Russia is bombing civilian locations, such as hospitals, Press TV reported on October 3rd that Russia has underlined that its aerial campaign in Syria against positions of foreign-backed terrorists has been highly effective, dismissing allegations that its bombings over the militant-held city of Aleppo amounted to war crimes. Russia's Deputy Foreign Minister, Gennady Gatilov, insisted on Monday that the airstrikes across Syria by Russian aircraft in support of government troops had prevented heavily armed terrorists from taking over the Arab country. Reports have surfaced recently releasing pictures of U.S. military jets being painted in Russian colors in an alleged attempt to spark a false flag situation in Syria. The Geopolitics News website has reported on October 10th that from financial and currency wars to high-octane media propaganda, the Western elite is losing big time. Their grand plan for a greater Israel in Syria, which is just a small segment of their ultimate technocratic dictatorship plans, has been rendered dead on its track when Russia and its allies intervened just before Syria falls completely to the moderate rebels known as Daesh, Islamic State, or al-Nusra, or al-Sham, al-Capone, al-McCain. The name keeps changing as the weather. The article continues, the Western oligarchs are submerged in a thick mud of unpayable debts, and the lenders are asking for the settlements of these obligations. Instead of paying what the West owed to the East, they chose to print more paper money and continue leveraging what physical economy they already have. That's the rationale of the massive move to digitize the currencies in America and Europe. It is also why there is a massive demonization campaign going on in the Western media. The 21st Century Wire News website reported on October 13th, however, that Dr. Marcus Papadopoulos, editor of Politics First, recently talked to the BBC News about the West's massive disinformation campaign targeting Syria and misinformation and Britain's irrational fear-mongering over Russia. This week, British Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson called for demonstrations outside the Russian embassy because of what Johnson alleges as war crimes in Syria. It seems that Johnson's dangerous rhetoric merely typifies a general level of ignorance and political malaise taking hold over the British parliamentarians recently. The following is what Dr. Papadopoulos had to say to the BBC.
Well, with me now is Dr. Marcus Papadopoulos, editor of Politics First and an expert on Russia. Do you think this country is Russophobic?
What can I say, first of all? The House of Commons debate demonstrated just how MPs are deluded, uninformed and, quite frankly, biased when it comes to the conflict in Syria. And the only people who are benefiting from that ignorance and delusion are Islamist terrorists in Aleppo and elsewhere in Syria. And we must remember that those Islamist terrorists who are receiving the backing of the West pose a terrible threat to the British public, and they want to carry out scores of London-style bombings. But when we talk about Russophobia, certainly Russophobia, racism towards Russia, has a long history in Britain. It goes back even to the Crimean War, and it was there during the First World War and even during the Second World War. And Boris Johnson's comments, his call for protests outside the Russian embassy, not only contravene diplomatic protocols, but they're, quite frankly speaking, they're very dangerous because they are encouraging hostility towards the Russian diplomats and the Russian diplomats' families. And if any harm comes to a Russian diplomat or his or her wife or husband, then Boris Johnson ultimately will be responsible.
It was interesting yesterday, just after Boris Johnson made those comments, how the Russian embassy in London reacted, and what it had to say basically was, well, Russia can point to what it's done in Syria, you may argue with it, but what's Britain done?
Well, the Russian military campaign in Syria, which began over a year ago, is being carried out in accordance with international law. Why do I say that? Because the Syrian government, led by President Assad, which is the only legitimate authority in Syria, and that is in line with the UN Charter and international law in general, called for assistance from the Russian military. Now, the US-led coalition in Syria, which of course includes Britain, is not acting legally, and the Russian military campaign has helped the Syrian army to liberate much of Syrian territory, which was controlled by Islamist terrorists.
You know the argument against that, and that is that Russia is committing war crimes in eastern Aleppo, and it is breaking every convention you say they are actually.
Yeah, I mean, I would dispute that because Western governments are citing reports, for example, from what is known as the White Helmets in Syria. Now, the White Helmets officially portray themselves as rescue workers. In reality, they are actually Islamist fighters themselves. There are numerous photos, there are footage of these White Helmets firing RPGs, firing Kalashnikovs, and posing with the bodies of dead Syrian soldiers and dead Syrian civilians in Aleppo.
We were hearing in Richard Galpin's report there from John Sawers, former head of MI6, that a no-fly zone frankly, is unworkable. How would you assess the state of UK-Russian relations today?
The state of relations between London and Moscow are absolutely dreadful, and that is because, in part, Britain does have a very suspicious, hostile attitude towards Russia, historically, and I think also Britain feels left out in Syria. The main two outside forces acting in Syria is, of course, Russia and America, and I think Britain feels, as I said, quite left out and is resorting to some, quite frankly speaking, disgraceful means. For example, encouraging protests outside the Russian embassy, and the Russian embassy is, as I said, completely right to complain about that.
The perception that many in the West have that this is President Putin, no one else, he's in charge, he has huge military might, and he's out to use it.
No, Russia is acting to defend international law because the Syrian government is the only legitimate authority in Syria, and it's being threatened by terrorists who are ideologically speaking the same people who carried out the London bombings, the Paris bombings, the Brussels bombings, and also Russia is acting out of self-defense because it knows that if Damascus should fall to an Islamist group in Syria, be it ISIS, be it al-Nusra, be it the so-called Free Syrian Army, then that would pose a tremendous threat to Russia because Russia's southern borders are not far from Syria.
In a Press TV interview on October 7th, former CIA NSA contractor Stephen Kelly was interviewed. According to the article, Israel is the instigator and the entire source of this problem that's going to plague the entire world with nuclear war, Stephen Kelly said in an interview with Press TV on Friday. None of this would be happening if it was not for the expansionist desires of the Zionist regime, and this very fact that we are now threatened with horrible annihilation and nuclear destruction should be time for all of us to sit back and look and see who is profiting and who is instigating this fight. And it is not between U.S. President Barack Obama and Russian President Vladimir Putin, Kelly said. It is the Zionists against the entire world. This is genocide, and we really need to stop it as soon as possible, he said. He also stated the U.S. is launching attacks against the Syrian government forces at the behest and orders of the Israeli regime in order to try to salvage the Daesh Takfiri terrorists in Aleppo. So, it is an incredibly wild ride at the moment, as so many energies are coming up for release. It is up to each of us to focus on the world that we are wanting to co-create and focus on the global cabal continuing to lose ground to the awakening human and planetary consciousness that is life-affirming and life-honoring. In other geopolitical news, in Spain, there is something that the Spanish people would like the world to know. They have not had a federal government for the last 9 months, and the people love it. According to an article on the antimedia.org website on October the 6th, for more than 9 months, Spain has existed without a traditional national government. In the face of this lack of central authority and planning, Spaniards have done the impossible. They have survived without a government. The article quotes the New York Times in their report of the exceptional situation in Spain. After 2 grueling national elections in 6 months, and with a third vote possible in December, no party has won enough seats or forged the coalition needed to form a government. For the first time in Spain's 4 decades as a modern democracy, this country of 47 million people has a caretaker government. Although Spanish politicians have tried to warn the people that not having a national government could have disastrous effects, it seems that life is not so bad when corrupt politicians are removed from the equation. Felix Pastor, a language teacher, was quoted as telling the Times, "No government, no thieves." Another 71-year-old man felt Spain would be just fine if we got rid of most politicians and government employees. The article notes that despite the lack of government, at the moment, life goes on without interruption. Welfare recipients in Spain are still receiving their benefits, and basic government employees are still paid. The streets are not littered with trash, and public trains and buses continue to operate. However, there are some major differences from life with a national government. Spain has been unable to pass national legislation, handle foreign affairs, or fund new government projects. This means no new invasive authoritarian laws can be passed by corrupt government officials. Local governments are still able to function, and although corruption is still possible, at least at the local level, the people are able to fight it more easily at those levels. Most people seem to be reasonably content without a national government. A Vox article recently noted that 2.3% of people in Spain is having any real concern about the lack of a national government there. This article also noted that, even more surprising, that number has been getting smaller as people get more accustomed to life in political limbo, the survey found. We've done very well without a government, or better put, without an interim decaffeinated government, economist Gabriel Calzada wrote in a column in the Business Daily Expansion, not long after the second inconclusive election. It is pretty obvious why this has not been making headlines in any Western mainstream news organization. Here is the message that those in control do not want you to know. The article writes that perhaps all the stories we have heard about humans tearing each other apart in the absence of government institutions have been propaganda designed to instill doubt in the minds of the masses. The concept of no rules or no authority is known as anarchism. Anarchism is also a wide-ranging political philosophy that explores the idea of a stateless society and asks how humanity might achieve such a thing. The word is often misrepresented in the lamestream media, but it truly means each individual has the freedom to blaze his or her own path and not infringe upon the freedom of others. The philosophy is much more complex and filled with controversy and division, but respecting individuals' abilities to live freely without imposed authority such as statism, capitalism, or socialism. Here is the point the article closes with. Although Spain can hardly be called a stateless society, as it is now, it is certainly providing an example of what people will do when the state cannot or will not help the people. The government is not only often ill-equipped to help the people, but it is also literally a gang of thieves who have come together and declared themselves the legitimate owners of various geographical land masses known as the United States, Spain, Israel, Colombia, Australia, Russia, Canada, and so on. They literally cannot survive without selling the people the idea that government is necessary. Not only is it necessary, they say, but its operators must also steal from the people, also known as taxation, in order to create and maintain the government and allegedly keep us safe. Obviously, these are lies. People can come together and thrive in the absence and failure of government. It is up to each of us to stand together and focus on solutions that can move us forward as a species. If we are to truly take on this task, we must ask hard questions about the nature of government and what role, if any, the institution will play in our future. In a few quick headlines for the week, in what may be a surprise to some and not a surprise to others, and perhaps a disappointment for cabal members in the U.S., an RT article is reporting on October the 11th that he's not American, nor in the race for the White House, but Vladimir Putin is a more popular choice for U.S. president than Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton in a new Twitter poll conducted by Kim.com. The Russian president is currently polling at 65%, with Trump at 21% and Clinton at 14%, with over 5,000 votes cast as of October 12th. The poll asking, "Who do you want to be the next president of the United States?" was posted on Twitter by internet entrepreneur Kim.com. The poll results reflect what appear to be a growing sentiment in the U.S. that the mainstream media attempts to demonize Russia for alleged events worldwide are failing. Last week, a huge banner with a picture of Putin and the words "Peacemaker" was hung from the Brooklyn Street Bridge in New York City for at least 2 hours before police were able to remove it. People in the U.S. are not the only ones who appear to be supporting the Russian president. An article appearing on Iran's Press TV news website is reporting that Venezuela's President Maduro has awarded a new peace prize to Vladimir Putin. According to Press TV, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has awarded the Russian president a newly created peace prize, which is named in honor of the Latin American nation's late leader, Hugo Chavez. Chavez, who ruled Venezuela for 14 years before surrendering to cancer in March of 2013 after a long fight, challenged Washington's hegemony in the region while seeking and establishing alliances with its traditional adversaries, including Russia and China. The article adds that the Venezuelan president blames the problems on an economic war, which he says the opposition has waged with a helping hand from the United States in an attempt to bring about a coup d'etat in the oil-rich country. The Nobel Peace Prize was awarded last week to Colombian President Juan Manuel Santos for his work in securing a peace deal with a rebel group called FARC. Strangely, the leader of the FARC group, Rodrigo Londono, also known as Timochenko, was not included in the nomination for the award, which raises some suspicions about the awarding of the Peace Prize and the agenda behind it. The peace deal was ultimately rejected in a referendum in Colombia as people felt that the deal was too secretive to be considered genuine and authentic, and the people rejected it, expressing their demand to want to know more, to participate more, and to see a more transparent process. Given the efforts of Putin and Russia, along with its allies, to remove the global cabal from its position of control over humanity and the planet, Maduro's awarding of Venezuela's new peace award to Putin could be very justified. In South Africa, an article appearing on the Global Research website on October the 11th by Rushka Johnson reports that the people of South Africa are rising up against biotech giant Monsanto, expressing their support for the Monsanto Tribunal. According to Johnson, over the weekend of October 14th to 16th, South Africans will be joining their voices in a call against agrochemical giant Monsanto and others like them, in support of the International Tribunal in The Hague. The fact that the people of South Africa are beginning to stand up and speak out against companies like Monsanto might suggest why the country has been targeted by the global cabal with efforts to destabilize the government and the country. South Africa is one of the original members of the BRICS alliance of countries, and just like Brazil and South America, South Africa has been targeted for destabilization. The article notes that Navdanya, the organization founded and led by Vandana Shiva, is co-organizing, along with multiple civil society organizations, the Monsanto Tribunal and People's Assembly to take place at The Hague from October 14th to 16th. The Monsanto Tribunal will hold Monsanto accountable for their crimes against humanity, human rights violations, and ecocide, in tandem with the People's Assembly, a gathering of leading movements and activists working to defend our ecosystem and food sovereignty, to lay out the effects of industrial agrochemicals on our lives, our soils, our atmosphere, and climate. Over 800 organizations from around the world are supporting and participating in this process, while over 100 people's assemblies and tribunals are being held across the world. Monsanto is currently facing a potential takeover from German agrochemical giant Bayer in what some are speculating to be a complex attempt to rebrand the company and its product line in an attempt to continue fooling the people of the planet. The article also notes that for the first time in history, ecocide has been brought to light as a crime. It is a significant mark in history, and the more awareness that can be created regarding this issue, the more hope we have for the future of our Earth and people. The Monsanto Tribunal, according to the homepage for the project, is an international civil society initiative to hold Monsanto accountable for human rights violations, for crimes against humanity, and for ecocide. Eminent judges will hear testimonies from victims and deliver an advisory opinion following procedures of the International Court of Justice. A distinct and parallel event, the People's Assembly, provides the opportunity for social movements to rally and plan for the future we want. The Monsanto Tribunal will be live streamed online Saturday, October 15th, and those wishing to view the event can access it from the monsanto-tribunal.org website, and the link will be posted in the show summary for this story. It is unclear as to what exactly is going on where Israel is concerned these days. On some occasions, it appears that the country is being further isolated on the global stage, much like the United States, while on other occasions it may seem like the Israeli government is continuing with its warmongering agenda, including the continued building of settlements in the West Bank. All Israeli settlements are illegal under international law, even though Israel has defied international calls to stop the settlements' expansion in the occupied Palestinian territories. One article on Press TV reported on October 7th that the European Union has denounced the Israel regime over its decision to construct nearly 100 new settler units in the northern part of the occupied West Bank, stating that the move kills off the prospects for peace. The European Union External Action Service, in a statement published on Friday, announced that Israeli officials had reneged on public statements not to erect new settlements, terming as effectively a new settlement the plan for 98 new settler units in the illegal Shiloh settlement, located 45 kilometers or 28 miles north of Jerusalem Al-Quds. The Israeli Civil Administration's Planning Authority approved the plan to build the new units on September 27th. In a second Press TV article on October the 8th, the EU's latest statement over Israeli settlements will not result in any action against the Tel Aviv regime, says a political commentator. This is just the typical chirping and honking that comes out of the West, whether it is the EU, whether it is the United Nations, whether it is the United States. It is just noise that is there to give the appearance that there is some independent thinking and independent foreign policy between the West and Israel, Mark Glenn told Press TV. The commentator also argued the Israelis fully intend to conquer the Middle East, even if it means drowning the entire world in war and bloodshed in the process, adding that the real intention of Israel is to steal all the land between the Nile and the Euphrates River. For at least the second time in less than 10 years, the country of Haiti is facing a severe humanitarian crisis. In the follow-up to the earthquake in 2010, charities collected tens of millions of dollars in donations, with only a small percentage making it to help the people in need. In light of the charity fundraising scam, it is being reported that the people of Haiti, after the recent devastation of Hurricane Matthew, are asking people to not donate to charities because the money will never make it to the people who need it. According to Gary Barnes in an article appearing on the Truth King's website on October the 11th, as absurd as that may seem, Haitian people are so jaded with foreign aid after reports it was squandered that they'd prefer to be left in squalor than deal with another Red Cross theft. It has been reported that charities set up by both the Bush and Clinton families after the earthquake have also stolen charitable donations that never made it to the people. According to the independent.co website, trust in the American Red Cross and in foreign aid generally has been badly shaken by a 2015 report that found donations have been squandered. Despite collecting nearly $500 million to provide relief after the 2010 Haiti earthquake and pledging to build 700 permanent homes, the American Red Cross has been accused of only building 6. In the coming days, many of you are going to write and ask me, how can you help Haiti? One woman said on Twitter after the hurricane. Do not give to the American Red Cross. Before giving donations to any major charity, it is worth doing research to see who is running the charity and what the salaries are of the executives of the organization and what its operating costs are. Chances are the organization is, sadly, not operating with the highest integrity and service to humanity and the planet. In financial news, it will not be a surprise to most listeners to the coincidence that just as the rhetoric of war continues to rise, so too are the reports that the global financial system is collapsing in the minds of some and transforming in the minds of others. An article appearing on the Business Insider website on October 12th by Bob Bryan has reported that HSBC's technical analysis team has thrown up the ultimate warning signal. In a note to clients released Wednesday, Murray Gunn, the head of technical analysis for HSBC, said he is calling a red alert for an imminent sell-off in stocks given the price action over the past few weeks. Gunn uses a type of technical analysis called the Elliott wave principle, which tracks alternating patterns in the stock market to discern investors' behavior and possible next moves. The article continues, in late September, Gunn said the stock market's moves looked eerily similar to those just before the 1987 stock market crash. Citi's Tom Fitzpatrick also highlighted the market's similarities to the 1987 crash just a few days ago. On September 30th, Gunn said the stocks were under an orange alert as they looked to him as if they had topped out. And now, given the 200-point decline for the Dow on Tuesday, October the 11th, Gunn thinks the drop is here. With the U.S. stock market selling off aggressively on October the 11th, we now issue a red alert, Gunn said in the note. The fall was broad-based, and the traders' index showed intense selling pressure as the market moved to the lows of the day. The VIX index, a barometer of nervousness, has been making a series of higher lows since August. Zero Hedge, in an article on October 14th, also advises people to brace themselves for a quadrillion-dollar reckoning. Ben Chu, writing for the London Independent back at the end of August, noted the following. Corrupt bankers represent a threat not only to those they directly rip off, but also potentially the entire global financial system, the governor of the Bank of England has warned. Governor Carney gave those comments ahead of the G20 summit that recently took place in China. When people like him make comments like those, one has to use particular discernment in trying to understand who exactly are being identified as the corrupted individuals. It is the same situation with Russia asking to sit down and identify who the real terrorists are, and then let's work together. Is Carney referring to himself and his banking cabal buddies, or is he attempting to be a whistleblower and point the way to those who are the real culprits? Again, I remind people that unless you are connecting the dots, one may feel inclined to fall into fear over news such as this. However, if one is also aware that Russia, China, and their allies are apparently putting into place other financial tools to challenge U.S. and Western hegemony, then there is at least hope that something better is in the process of coming into being to replace an extremely corrupted and dysfunctional financial paradigm that can no longer be sustained. In general news, there are a number of listeners who are familiar with the work of Lotta Ray, who often writes about global events, particularly relating to Russia from her perspective of having Russian in her background. In a posting on October the 8th on her blog site, Lotta Ray comments on the term geopolitics and expands it into spiritual geopolitics. Regarding our current paradigm and reality, Ray offers the following. In our divided yin-yang third-dimensional reality, those who are spiritually oriented tend to be scared and shy away from politics and geopolitics, as well as all things that are used as geopolitical tools, such as news and info wars, confrontation, and the military. Meanwhile, those who are into politics tend to misunderstand, dismiss, and or be terrified of things that are beyond their 3D understanding, including metaphysics and consciousness. Both of these approaches are limiting, and neither is viable in the new reality, which the ongoing Earth shift is ushering in. Both are manifestations of severe human imbalances, denoting a sorry state of our divided and compartmentalized world. She believes and feels that it is better to have a more integral approach, embracing the world the way it is in all its manifestations, because denial only slows the evolutionary process down in creating a better future. Ray continues, the good news is that more and more people are awakening to the fact that they must keep open minds and explore beyond their comfort zone. Those who genuinely want to see and awaken experience synchronicities, whereas the universe ushers into their path the way-showers and guides. These guides and way-showers help the awakened ones orient themselves in this ever-expanding world of new ideas, realms, and possibilities. Ray chooses to define geopolitics as being the science and practice of human and state relations on planet Earth. In her expanded definition of spiritual geopolitics, she offers this definition as being a merger between geopolitics, spirituality, and multidimensional consciousness. This merger is of crucial importance in order to transform the existing human three-dimensional consciousness of confrontation into a fifth-dimensional consciousness of cooperation and unity during this Earth shift. Balance is always the key, and Lotta Ray offers that from a spiritual perspective, geopolitics is the shadow side of the collective human experience on our planet. Shadows are as important as light, if used correctly. The thing we have to fear is not the presence of the shadows, but an imbalance of too much shadow and distortion of truth. Geopolitics is the way large groups of humanity residing in different geographic locales with different languages, interests, aspirations, and levels of development have learned to interact with each other. So far, we have no other such mechanism. Geopolitics is a third, fourth dimensional creation. As such, it is an imperfect construct if looked at from a higher consciousness perspective. But it is a construct produced by the collective consciousness of humans. As such, it corresponds with the present-day energy and vibration of humanity as a whole. Geopolitics is a tool for humanity to use, and it can be used for both good and for evil. Ray feels, as do I, that our world is currently shifting from one geopolitical paradigm to another paradigm, one that is based in a higher consciousness and vibration, leading to a collective shift of both humanity and our planet. The link is in the show summary for this story for those choosing to read the full article. In this week's Final Words, we'll look a bit more at understanding the differences between a third, fourth, and fifth dimensional consciousness. In disclosure-related news, if our current reality is teaching humanity anything, it is that we must learn to question everything and also to look for the meaningful information by connecting the dots of all the different sources of information that are attempting to share with regard to the current geopolitical and geoeconomic paradigm upon this planet. Historically, Western students have been taught that both China and Russia are bad, because these countries have made it more difficult for Westerners and their companies to enter their countries. It helps to explain also why these countries have been increasingly demonized by Western leaders, governments, and Western media. As the truth continues to come up, we can begin to see that there was a reason for why Russia and China have made it harder for Westerners to visit, due to the negative influence the West is now being proven to have had upon humanity and our planet. It has given these countries greater freedom to develop all the systems that Russia and China are now beginning to put into place to take down the global cabal. The same could also be said with regard to the issue of the disclosure of our galactic families. Several years ago at the Citizens Hearing for Disclosure, sponsored by the Paradigm Research Group, one of the witnesses called to testify and offer information represented China. He has very high credentials, and it would seem that he has the approval to speak on behalf of the Chinese government. His explanation of the Chinese culture's connection to civilizations beyond Earth, particularly the dragons, brings a powerful force and organization behind the disclosure movement. Speaking through a translator, here is what he shared.
My name is Sun Shili. I am from the People's Republic of China. I am the president of the World Chinese UFO Federation. Our federation serves as a communication platform for the global Chinese on all aspects of UFO, including those in mainland China, Hong Kong, and Taiwan, and abroad. We have 1.3 billion people in China, and on top of that, we also have a lot of overseas Chinese. That means we have a very big federation. I also wanted to point out that Chinese people consider ourselves as the descendants of dragon. And dragon is from out of space in the Chinese culture. So in the Chinese culture, we are from out of space as descendants of dragon. Secondly, we call our land as the land of deities or the land of gods. And another principle in the Chinese culture, which is also important, is that we seek the harmony between people and heaven. So descendants of the dragon, the land of deities, and the harmony between people and heaven are very relevant with the hearing that is taking place. My career is in international affairs and international economics, and I have been working in the government. I have been a diplomat and a university professor. But since the 1970s, I started to spend time on the subject of UFO and the study of the mysteries of the universe. Since the establishment of the China UFO Research Institute in 1980, I have been actively involved in the leadership of the largest UFO organization in the world and the leader of the World Chinese UFO Federation. So I have been a witness to the history of China UFO research and also a spokesperson or an advocate, if you will. Since 1990s, I participated in a series of international conferences in Asia, Europe, North America, South America, and many other places, engaging in academic exchanges. I've also been interviewed by many international media on China UFO research development. This media include AP, BBC, CNN, NBC, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Los Angeles Times, Christian Science Monitor, Times Magazine, and the most prestigious science and technology channel, Discovery. Of course, in addition to that, for many years we have also been interviewed by the Chinese state media, Xinhua, and the CCTV, and many other Chinese media. So for the past 33 years, it's been a very hard time for Chinese UFO scholars, but we are still committed to the study of this subject, and we have gained a lot of great results, which is reflected in the following aspects. First, everyone on this planet is looking for our roots in the universe. We have the right to know. We have the right to discover. The mission of the Chinese UFO scholars is to help our citizens realize and implement their right to know and their right to discover. Any attempt to cover up is unacceptable. Secondly, statistics of the China UFO groups show that people involved in the subject of UFO is an overwhelming scale. According to our statistics, in China, out of 1.3 billion people, we have close to tens of millions of people who are UFO enthusiasts. And those who are interested in UFO subject or believe that UFO exists count for half of the Chinese population, which is about 500 million people. A group of senior scholars in the China UFO Research Institute come from various backgrounds that include scientific research agencies, aerospace, aviation, manufacturing, astronomy, and many scholars are very prestigious scholars in the society. After years of research, a large number of Chinese UFO scholars, including myself, are convinced the authenticity of UFO, the existence of UFO and aliens. To testify the existence of the UFO and aliens, I have also written articles that have appeared in China's encyclopedia, which is also a very prestigious encyclopedia in China that was edited by Mr. Qian Shuishen, a famous scientist in China. So we believe the existence of UFO, we believe the existence of aliens and extraterrestrials. For many years, after our research and investigation, we have recorded some third-kind cases, including the Fengshan Mountain incident, the Feixiang incident, the Beijing Caogong incident, and the Duxi Farm incident, as well as interaction with national civil aviation system and the military with outer space. China has the earliest and the most recorded cases of the third kind in the world. The earliest can be traced back to 12,000 years ago. Prehistoric records carved in ancient stone plate. According to our studies, up to 5,000 years of written history, there is a wealth of suspected, mysterious UFO-related data and files, including ancient data which prove that UFO does exist and also proves the real existence of the interaction between UFO and humans.
Given that Sun claims to speak on behalf of over 500 million people who believe in the existence of civilizations beyond Earth, this already exceeds the entire population of the United States, and thus would carry more weight than the proclamations of the few in the West who are desperately seeking to keep humanity from knowing this one truth that will profoundly reshape human and planetary consciousness as we currently know it. This is not the only historical information, of course. Information is surfacing from yet another country that has long been the target of U.S. occupation and control. Katie Forster, writing for the London Independent on October 1st, reported that an Iraqi minister has claimed that the ancient Sumerians traveled to Pluto in spaceships thousands of years ago. Kazim Finjan, Iraq's transport minister, told reporters in Dakar, South Iraq, that the world's first airport was built there in around 5000 BC. He said the ancient civilization of Sumer, one of the oldest known societies, used the airport for space exploration and even discovered Pluto, according to the news website The New Arab. Forster adds that it is believed that the Sumerians settled in the historical region of southern Mesopotamia, now South Iraq, in 5500 to 4000 BC, where they developed agriculture, trade, and artisan skills such as weaving, metalwork, and pottery. The New Arab reported that Mr. Finjan referred to the work of Russian professor and Sumerian expert Samuel Kramer, who studied the civilization's creation myths and wrote about their understanding of the solar system. Is it any wonder why the US, Israel, and many Western allies, including Canada, are seeking to keep certain countries under military or economic control, since so many of these countries are offering truths that threaten the power structure and hegemony of those seeking to keep humans enslaved for profit, power, and control. As our global society moves ever closer to the day when the existence of benevolent civilizations beyond Earth is formally known and acknowledged by all nations of the planet, more and more people are beginning to dream of the possibility of being able to live and travel among the stars. Whistleblowers such as Corey Good and others have been coming forth to share that this possibility has been a reality for many decades now, but this information has been kept suppressed from the people of the world. However, a project by scientists now seeks to offer people an opportunity to live among the stars, a project that may also be a form of soft disclosure of preparing people for a new reality unfolding upon the planet. Both the London Guardian and RT reported this week on the project. Nicola Davis of the London Guardian wrote that proposals for the first nation state in space have been unveiled by a team of scientists and legal experts who say the move will foster peace, open up access to space technologies, and offer protection for citizens of planet Earth. The RT article reported that scientists have unveiled plans for Asgardia, a floating nation and defender of the Earth with room for 100,000 citizens. Dr. Igor Asharbeli of the Aerospace International Research Center announced the plans in Paris, saying Asgardia aims to flourish free from the tight restrictions of state control that currently exist. He announced the plans on the same day he became chairman of UNESCO's Science of Space Committee. Asharbeli said their mission is to act as guardians of the Earth, and the nation would first get to work building a protective shield to protect Earth from debris, asteroids, and coronal mass ejections from the sun. Many who may recall the 1997 movie Contact with Jodie Foster may recall how the selection process initially prevented Foster's character, Ellie Arroway, from participating in the wormhole travel project because she did not have the same belief or definition of God that leaders and politicians were expecting her to have, even though she was the one who discovered the original signal of contact. Therefore, a lot of questions would need to be asked about who is invited to attend this project because they possess a particular skill, and who is allowed to participate because they have sufficient money or political corporate influence. Today's leaders consider environmentalists to be terrorists, for example. So would they try to prevent people who are awake and aware from participating in a project of this nature? The Guardian article adds the following. Speaking to the Guardian through an interpreter, project lead Asharbeli said, physically, the citizens of the nation-state will be on Earth. They will be living in different countries on Earth, so they will be a citizen of their own country, and at the same time, they will be citizens of Asgardia. No doubt, those listeners who are fans of the Stargate TV series may clue in to the similarity between Asgardia and the extraterrestrial race in the series called the Asgard. In this series, the Asgard are a highly advanced, fictional, allegedly, extraterrestrial race and became important allies in Earth's battle against two threatening civilizations. According to the official website for the project, for the first time in history, a new nation-state has been created, not on Earth, but in the heavens above. Asgardia is the prototype of a free and unrestricted society which holds knowledge, intelligence, and science at its core, along with the recognition of the ultimate value of each human life. You can join like-minded people on this new exciting step in fostering an extended future for humankind. Asgardia will demonstrate to scientists throughout the world that independent, private, and unrestricted research is possible. Its first prototype satellite is planned for launch in 2017 to 2018. Asgardia, named in honor of an ancient mythological city in the skies, will offer an independent platform free from the constraint of a land-based country's laws. It will become a place in orbit which is truly no man's land. Asher Bailey was quoted in the Guardian article as saying the following: "When the number of those applications goes above 100,000, we can officially apply to the UN for the status of state." As of airtime on October 14th, that 100,000 threshold has now been reached. According to the website, Asher Bailey is a scientist, businessman, and innovator, and he founded Socium in 1988. Today, Socium Holding has over 10,000 employees and 30 companies worldwide. Its slogan, Per Socium ad Astra, emphasizes the need for community and cooperation in humanity's path toward the stars and our continued exploration of space. For many, it may not be a surprise that it is a Russian who is leading this project and that it is ready to launch so soon. The Guardian article notes Asher Bailey as being not only a Russian nanoscientist, but he also founded the Vienna-based Aerospace International Research Center and is the current chair of UNESCO's Science of Space Committee. The project aims to open up a conversation about regulations surrounding space activity. The project is not without its challenges, and of course the vast majority of these challenges are dealing with rules and regulations that are contained within the current dysfunctional paradigm that is also rapidly evolving and transforming. What appears to be a significant challenge right now within the current paradigm may not be so significant by next year. Currently, according to the article, the Outer Space Treaty that underpins international space law states that responsibility and liability for objects sent into space lies with the nation that launched them. But the project team claimed that Asgardia will set a new precedent, shifting responsibility to the new space nation itself. It appears to be a very exciting project, and I have applied for citizenship on this project so I can learn more and perhaps fulfill the dream of being one of the first journalists living and reporting from space. Over to science and tech-related news now. As technology continues to advance, more and more humans are finding themselves in positions of having to discern whether or not a particular technology is ultimately beneficial or ultimately harmful. Wi-Fi and cellular technologies could be considered in these categories. Both have properties that are very harmful, but at the same time, they are also technologies that have helped contribute to the awakening of humanity around the world. Is virtual reality another one of these possible technologies? Suggestions have begun appearing that humanity is existing within a hologram, and that we are in fact holographic creations. An article appearing on the Virtual Reality Today magazine website on October the 1st by Jason McNaughton explores this a little more. McNaughton has been researching environmental immersion for over 5 years, and now that virtual reality technologies are more accessible, he has been experimenting with them. McNaughton writes, "The first unusual experiment, I took a nap while wearing my virtual reality viewers to learn how it interacts with the mind upon waking in virtual reality. My first awakening, the Avengers Mansion. At first, I was quite confused. My thoughts were, did I get really drunk last night? Where the hell am I? How did I get here? Is this a dream? In those early stages, my first reaction, when presented with an unusual environment upon waking, was to assume it was real and try to make sense of how I got there. Those first times when I tried to rub the sleep out of my eyes, I immediately feel the goggles and realized fairly quickly that it was a virtual reality experience still running. In this case, his confusion only lasted a very short period of time, maybe 5 to 10 seconds, maybe half a minute at most, before he realized he was wearing the virtual reality goggles. McNaughton experimented with this even more, falling asleep and waking up in different virtual reality environments. He writes, I've woken in virtual reality environments of just about every type possible. I've woken up all over the world and even on Mars. I've woken up in a website. I've woken up face to face with myself through a recorded 360 message. I've also been recording many of my life's moments in 360 so that I could try waking up in past events. The author cautions that there are side effects that he experienced. He writes, I learned quite a few things from these experiments. For example, the more senses are used, visual, audio, and haptic, when entering into those environments, the more intense the transition experiences are. I must caution you not to try this at home, he writes. After a short while, I did notice quite a few side effects. The first was that when waking on regular non-virtual reality days, my brain took a few seconds longer to process where I was and if it was real. As the global cabal desperately tries to maintain its grip over humanity and the planet, this technology, in its current form, has the potential to be abused and could be used in even more harmful ways than today's smartphones that are creating a new generation of zombies. McNaughton writes, the technology has progressed so rapidly that near complete immersion can be achieved. Because of this, I have memories and dreams of places I've only been virtually. How I speak to my friends about my day's activities often sounds surreal and bizarre. This is because many of our senses can now be hijacked sufficiently enough to fool my subconscious mind into believing the reality that we are presented with. I have friends that I remember as avatars in alternate space or virtual time because I've never seen their real bodies, but I've become familiar with their body language. For many who are looking for an escape from the current reality, virtual reality has the potential to cause harm unless one is fully aware of the technology and its potential risks. The author adds that despite the many opportunities these innovations may bring, such immersive technology is probably not without its own set of concerns. It shares some similarities with overactive imagination, hallucinations, and schizophrenic behavior. These similarities brought me to consider how virtual reality is a vivid simulation that is comparable to our imagination, and that virtual reality may benefit from existing methods for creating safe mental and emotional environments of which one can exit from at any time and can be removed from when necessary. This must be achieved before we intend to create relaxing virtual reality sleeping apps. The author continues to warn parents about unmonitored use of virtual reality equipment by children. Although the author notes that the virtual reality technology is evolving rapidly and will soon include the ability to monitor body functions and heart rates, it is our social responsibility to apply rudimentary preventative measures based on existing knowledge, such as the effects of stress on our body and long-term health, or our understanding of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. PTSD is a state that can occur from repeated or prolonged exposure to a perceived life-threatening situation. Currently, virtual reality has been looked at as a treatment for PTSD, but with VR becoming more immersive, it is necessary that we take precautions to prevent it from causing any type of stress. Children who are exposing themselves to scenarios of war or combat in virtual reality may be prone to this. McNaughton believes, as with many technologies, VR has the potential to alter the way we interact with and share experiences in our world. Yet it also has the potential to harm us in ways we do not yet understand. Let's apply reasonable caution and ensure it enhances our quality of life rather than endangering it. Virtual reality can help improve education, therapy, and medicine, but it must be done correctly and with care, or the implications could be devastating, despite our good intentions. As the global cabal and its harmful agenda are removed more and more from our present reality, virtual reality technology can then bring greater opportunities to help facilitate the growth and healthy empowerment of an individual to contribute to the highest good of humanity and to our planet. Finally, in health-related news, a number of people around me personally have been feeling very knocked out energetically and physically, especially over the last few months. It has been challenging to maintain a positive outlook as one witnesses symptoms arising within one's own physical body while feeling more drained than usual. One may look around and see one's friends or colleagues continuing in the physical world, and they appear blissfully ignorant and unaware of the changes unfolding. At times like these, an individual who is particularly awake and aware may understandably wonder why he or she is being forced to endure these energies while others are not, or seemingly not. On other occasions, some people have noticed feelings or energies coming up within them, and they may feel that those energies are not their own. They may judge someone as negative, even though that one individual does not personally feel that way. I have observed this in myself on many occasions. Although it is possible that it could be a form of mind control, it is also possible that many souls have chosen to take on the energies of others for the purposes of collective and planetary healing. To put it into a sports term that many will understand, it is known as taking one for the team. For those who do not speak English well, this is an expression that means one person takes the short-term penalty or punishment in order for the team to be successful in the long run, or at the end. In an article appearing on the in5d.com website by Michelle Walling on September 27th, she shares that star seeds that are the forerunners of ascension are getting up once again from the result of the waves of energies that came through in huge waves in September. Those of us that take one for the team are wondering when the hell we are going to be done with this empathetic transmutation for the collective. Walling goes on to share how some are taking on the energies of others, as I described moments ago. She adds that these star seeds are alchemy specialists that are empathetic and powerful. They absorb energies and move them through their emotional, spiritual, mental, and physical bodies, mirroring the collective's body as a body double. They have guidance that helps them take only what they can handle, although the amount they can handle seems to differ from what their guidance team comes up with. She describes that she feels that she is one of these souls, and that the role of these star seeds is soon to come to an end. She describes these star seeds in the following way. These specialists may have been rebels their whole life, and they usually do not like to take orders. They are systems busters and are not afraid to speak their minds. Their job has been to jump hurdles bigger than most people could deal with. They have a knowing that something is about to change on the planet, and their jobs will drastically change into something calmer and more enjoyable. They do not take crap from anyone. She offers 4 reasons she believes this role is coming to an end. She writes, 1, we are getting close to the point of timeline bifurcation for many people. People will find themselves moving and gathering in times of chaos. People will energetically attract those that are of similar actions, thoughts, and respect. The draw will be undeniable to move or connect with like-minded people. The higher vibrational people may not even be seen by other people on the planet. For a while, they will occupy the same city, state, or country, but may never see each other in this reality. Eventually, the lower vibrating people will completely forget all about the ones that ascended in vibration and consciousness. Because of this, the connection will not be felt anymore between the groups that have separated. 2, one person can only do so much work before becoming burned out or ascending, or both. Some starseed transmuters have emotionally hit the maximum and feel guilty for their outbursts of anger and frustration. The strongest and most practiced are picking themselves up and running to the aid of the wounded. These people may feel like they have taken huge steps backwards, but in fact, if they are consciously aware of what is happening, it is likely that they are moving closer and closer to bifurcating each moment. By dealing with the collective energies, they are helping humanity reach the tipping point. These star seeds came from a long way away to do this job, and they are really good at it, even if it doesn't look like they have much grace right now. 3, we say it's time for it to stop. As we progress with information and experience, we learn how to move through situations quickly so that we do not get embedded in these dense energies. We find that there are no longer reasons to protect ourselves because we have risen above the frequency of fear. In a sense, we become superhuman as long as we stay aware and know when to react and when to let things go. Number 4, Earth is raising her vibration beyond lower frequencies. As Earth raises her vibrational frequency, energies surface and vibrate apart. This could be comparable to water as it reaches a critical point and changes from water to a vapor. Holding on to energies within the body will manifest as physical problems in a person's body, just as they manifest as earthquakes, storms, and volcanic eruptions in Earth. Once the energy moves, it is done. Earthquakes do not last for days. The mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual health of all humans is becoming increasingly important for those willing to choose them. Walling adds, those people will soon be relieved of their positions, not because they let themselves slip, but because they did such a good job. The next wave of volunteers will be left to pick up any broken pieces and put them all back together again. All of the energies will be vibrated apart and recollected in groups. Thus, the strife to all get along will be no more. If you are one of those alchemy team players, don't judge yourself on how you dealt with the collective energy. Even if it seemed like your energy, be assured that someone else on the planet was dealing with the same energy. As you transmuted it, you helped at least one person. Maybe you aren't someone who has taken one for the team. Send them forgiveness, gratitude, and unconditional love for their service to humanity. This will help them recover more quickly so that they can be prepared for the next arrow shot at them without taking them out for good. As we wind down our jobs, we may still have a few episodes to handle. Make sure to take time to rest in between energetic waves that create situations. Forgive yourself and others for playing out the seemingly silly emotional dramas. Choose your battles wisely and leave the petty stuff for the next crew to handle. Walling then closes with the following. Soon you will understand this new role more, and you will find yourself with your feet up on the desk, smoking a cigar, and make sure it's the best cigar you can find because you will deserve it. Her 11 suggestions. In a separate article, Walling offers 11 suggestions for those looking to prevent spiritual and psychic burnout. Number 1, get out of your head and into your heart. Number 2, be willing to let go of materialism and programming. 3, reduce the amount of time on the internet and in front of the TV unless it is highly positively focused. Number 4, get out in nature. Number 5, take a sea salt and baking soda bath. 6, ask for help from your team, meaning one's non-physical guides. Number 7, reduce stress and let go of baggage. 8, say no to people who want you to give them all the answers. 9, reassess your living situation, location, job, relationships, and the energy that you live in. 10, love yourself and forgive yourself. Number 11, raise your vibration. Do things you love and be love. Treat others well and be responsible for your own actions and words. Be in the world watching, but no longer match the frequency around you. Links will be in the show summary for this story for those choosing to read the information more closely. In this week's final words, last week I explored a bit more about the idea of dimensions, and although I have explored the concept of the differences in dimensions in the past, I seem to have been drawn to an article suggesting that maybe it is time for either a reminder for some or perhaps a perspective to consider when thinking about dimensions and how they affect us and reality as we are currently perceiving it. An article appearing on the Love Has Won blog site by Vera Ingeborg from October 8th starts by offering the following. When going through the process of spiritual awakening, sooner or later we are confronted with the fact that there seems to be more dimensions than the one reality we are living in and that we know so well. We learn about universal energies and different frequencies and what ascension truly means, an energetic shift from a third-dimensional reality to a fifth-dimensional reality by raising our frequencies to a much higher level and transmuting low frequencies of fear into unconditional love up to a point where no fear is left. We come across a lot of information and are learning a lot about ourselves, the universe, and humanity. The author offers her own interpretation of these dimensions for the consideration of readers. She starts with the third dimension, describing it as the material world of fear, writing that energetically, the third dimension is a place of very low vibration and enhances the illusion of separation, duality, and free will. Our higher self is not integrated into the physical body because it cannot handle the density and low frequency. It is connected with us through our spiritual body, but when our chakras are blocked, it hardly can get through to us. That causes the belief that we are separated from a divine source, what some call God. In a third-dimensional reality, we actually think that our life is based on coincidences and that there is no destiny, as we are not aware of our true identity, a spiritual being in a physical body, suffering from amnesia. As we incarnate into the third dimension, we forget who we truly are and get equipped with an ego mind that is only serving for this incarnation. It cannot remember any of our previous lives because it has not been there with us. Only our cellular structure and DNA carries memories from our family lineage and our soul and higher self knows about our experiences in past lives. As long as the ego mind is in the lead and our heart is closed, the connection to our soul is blocked most of the time. The communication with our higher self and the higher realms can only be felt, not understood with the rational mind. The ego mind is not able to process this amount of energy. She offers more examples based on the various criteria of separation that we have created in our world relating to race, religion, culture, gender, orientation, beliefs, and so on. She also offers that we are so used to the ego that we don't question whether it is normal that we spend all of our time in the past or in the future. The ego plays the should have, could have, and would have game in the past, or jumps into the future playing the let's create scenarios game to be prepared for any possibilities. We don't see that the only real place to be is in the now. She adds that the illusion of duality in the third dimension allows us to experience light and darkness, good and bad, joy and despair, better and worse. We have the choice to act as saints or demons. This is actually the only choice we have on this planet, love or fear, light or darkness. That is what free will allows us. As long as we are choosing fear, we are repeating our experiences and patterns until we learn to choose love. That is the beauty of the third dimension. Once we learn to choose love permanently, we come to enlightenment as our frequency raises significantly. That way, we overcome our ego mind's limits. We learn to let our heart and soul take over the lead in transforming our ego into a free spirit. We learn how the universal energies work and how we can create our reality. In a fourth dimensional reality, Ingeborg offers that it is the dream world. She writes that it is also called the astral plane. It is a dimension that is less dense and much more fluid than the third dimension, but still hosts the illusion of duality, and the ego is able to exist also here. It is the dimension of time. Imagine it to be a stream of energy hosting all events of one particular timeline. We usually visit this plane naturally during the night. Here in our dream states, anything is possible. A mouse can be transformed into a lion. We can fly or breathe underwater. We can be in many places at the same time and have conversations with the weirdest creatures. This is the plane that shamans and ancient civilizations traveled to find out more and connect to the spiritual realms. These journeys gave them access to the underworld and the upper world. Many of them used drugs and special trance ceremonies to get there. Depending on the energetic vibration of people, traveling in the astral plane can be a very loving and exciting or a very scary and fearful experience. Spiritual drugs will never take us above the fourth dimension. Nevertheless, traveling the astral plane can be very insightful to learn more about ourselves, about our purpose, and also about our fears as we get into close exchange with our higher self in this realm. On this plane, it is also possible to tap into the collective consciousness and learn more from there. The fourth dimension connects darkness and light. On this plane, we can protect us only by applying the energetic universal laws, as there is no human laws or regulations for control. Ingeborg describes the fifth dimension as the last dimension, and I'm not sure what she is meaning by this because I personally believe that there are many more dimensions. But perhaps she means that this is the final dimension for this particular part of the human journey. She describes it as a dimension of pure light and unconditional love. It could very well be what many believe as heaven or nirvana or whatever else. It may also be the dimension that is perceived by many in near-death experiences. She writes, "This is the dimension beyond linear time. That means that many different timelines are available to access. Physical existence is still possible on this plane, although the body is lighter and of a different cellular structure. When the physical body is fully transformed into this structure, there is no pain. Further, there is no fear. It is the plane of unconditional love and abundance, manifest in the physical. Our higher self has been fully integrated into our physical body and has taken over the guidance. This feels very differently from just channeling the higher self. The first time your higher self moves into the physical body fully is quite overwhelming. It is an intense energetic flow of unconditional love, and everything feels light and at ease. Before the higher self can be fully anchored into the physical body, the healing of all bodies, the mental, the emotional, and the physical, has to be completed. Therefore, your higher self will slip in and out for a while until it can move in permanently. You will know when your higher self is integrated, when you do not question the universal flow and simply trust your journey. You do not feel the need to interfere or control that flow anymore." She adds that living in a fifth-dimensional reality means living from the heart. We connect through our hearts and can feel the connection and love instantly. In the fifth dimension, our sexual desires change as we have reached our internal balance between the masculine and feminine energies. We have become androgynous energetically. Once someone has raised their own frequency onto a fifth-dimensional level, the return to the lower dimensions is not possible anymore unless the soul chooses it consciously. This was the choice of a lot of star seeds and angelic beings took to help humanity ascend. People in fifth-dimensional realities are immune to low frequencies, as there is no resonance. We receive information directly from spirit, and telepathy, teleportation, and telekinesis becomes possible. The fifth dimension is the dimension of deep trust and an inner knowing that everything is happening perfectly. On this plane, we have learned to go with the flow and let Source work through us to create miracles. There is no need to be right in the fifth dimension because there is no ego. She closes with the following. In fifth-dimensional reality, we live according to the universal energetic laws, knowing that we create what we think. There are no man-made rules or laws because people fully trust the energetic flow and where it takes and guides them to. There is no need for possession or status, as there is no competition and nothing to compare. Everything becomes a sharing. Gratitude is always present. When we live in a fifth-dimensional reality permanently, we have reached a state of enlightenment. No wonder that is referred to as heaven on earth. Now, what I've just shared is the perspectives of this particular author, and may or may not resonate with each listener. I invite each listener to just sit with what has been shared, without judgment of it as right or wrong, and see how it feels in one's heart. At some level, one will know whether or not this feels right in one's heart in the current moment of now. If it does not resonate as truth in this moment, perhaps it may in a future moment, or it is possible that it may never resonate because another truth may replace this one or expand upon it in our interpretation of truth. The source link is in the show summary for any choosing to read the full message from Ingabori. Create a wonderful week until our next moment of now. So that is the sample of the unfolding higher consciousness news around the world this week. Cosmic Vision News is broadcast weekly from the CosmicVisionNews.com website. Links to stories used in this broadcast are published in the show summary, which is available on the website. CVN can be followed through its Facebook page. Minds page and YouTube channel, as well as on Twitter, Google+, and LinkedIn. Thank you for sharing your time with me. I'm Jeffrey West, reminding you to be willing to walk alone. Many who started with you won't be finishing with you. Until our next moment of now, stay grounded in love, hold the vision of light and peace in your hearts, and keep your eyes to the skies. Disclosure is unfolding all around you. Namaste.